Folks, I had the privilege. Let's go ahead and roll this. The other day, I sat down with Dr. Michael Pakko, and we talked Arkansas economic numbers. This is what it sounded like. All right, folks. Hey, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us as always. We got a special treat this morning. It's always great to have Dr. Michael Pakko join us. Of course, he's a chief economist and state economic forecaster at the Arkansas Economic Development Institute at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock at UALR. Dr. Pakko, how are you this morning?
Doing just fine. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. So, how have things been going? I saw that on Friday we had some jobless numbers, or the unemployment rate was released. What can you tell us about those numbers?
Well, the last Friday we had the new numbers for August. The unemployment rate remains usually low, record low at 3.7%. We had another month of pretty solid non-farm payroll employment growth. So there wasn't really anything to be too concerned about relative to recent trends. The latest data suggests that we're still growing jobs at about 1.2% annual rate, which is about the trend we've been following for the past 4 or 5 years. And so I guess one of the encouraging numbers in that report was a rebound in manufacturing employment, which had been on the downtrend for 2 or 3 months this summer. So it was good to see that bouncing back. And really no terribly evident signs of weakness in the employment report.
Yeah, and I think this is something that is making a lot of folks happy. Then you've got the stock market, which is doing good too. What are your thoughts on? Really, let me just ask you this generally. It seems people on the left want the economy to tank, so it decreases the likelihood that President Trump gets reelected. What are your thoughts?
Well, there's certainly those kind of prognostications do get all wrapped up in politics. There's certainly some evidence that the global economy is weakening, and some concerning signs in financial markets. We have this inverted yield curve periodically, where the short-term interest rates are rising above long-term rates. But as far as looking for signs of kind of overkill or potential bubbles that might bring on an economic collapse of some sort or another, there's not really anything out there on the horizon. It seems obvious to me. So it would just seem that this particular expansion we've been going for as a nation 10 years now, longest expansion on record, but there haven't really been those excesses that you often see when an economy's expansion gets to a mature phase where it seems unsustainable any longer. This has just been a long, slow slog. And for that matter, it hasn't really been evenly distributed. There are parts of the country that are doing quite well and other parts of the country that aren't doing so well.
Now, so we have these job numbers that came out on Friday. There were some new ones that came out on Tuesday. Is that right?
Yes, we got the new personal income numbers for the second quarter of the year. There's a little bit of a lag on that. But this is another good report. We had a 5% annual growth rate in the second quarter in total personal income of Arkansans, and that was up from a weak first quarter. We saw only about 2% growth. So the personal income has been up for the year growing a little bit more slowly than the rest of the nation. It's a 5.4% rate for the U.S. So, but we were right about at the median when you look at the comparison of states' growth rates for the second quarter. And personal income is an important number, I think, because it really encapsulates a lot of economic activity in one big aggregate. It's probably the closest you come to GDP for a state level in any timely manner. So it's a good indication that at least the second quarter, things were still plugging along good for people's incomes here in Arkansas.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic thing. Again, we're talking with Dr. Michael Pakko. He is an economist, and he knows what he's talking about. Knows a lot more than I do about the economy. Dr. Pakko, I would wonder, what do you think? What could be done, in your opinion, that would give Arkansas an even better chance at being more successful than we are now?
Oh, well, there certainly are some weak areas in the Arkansas economy. If you look around the state, really there are certain areas that are doing really well. Northwest Arkansas, obviously, is booming. Central Arkansas, Jonesboro is doing great. But if you look around the state, there are really about 2/3 of the counties in Arkansas have been losing population during this decade. And I think that largely attributable to the transformation we've had from a manufacturing economy to a more service-oriented economy. So a lot of the small factory jobs that we saw around the state simply are disappearing and are likely not to come back. And the service sector is more active in the metropolitan areas. So we're seeing kind of a hollowing out of the rural areas in the state. And it seems to me that we should be encouraging local growth of businesses, entrepreneurship, as really that turns out to be the driver of job growth rather than trying to lure in the big corporations that are going to promise hundreds of jobs for a small community. It's more likely that we're going to see organic, local job growth. That's really where things happen. So I would put more emphasis on that kind of policy to the extent that there's anything that you can do to make the economy grow more efficiently.
I've studied. Are you familiar with the idea of opportunity zones? I mean, I've heard about this before. I've never really decided what I think about it. What do you think about opportunity zones?
Well, I guess in principle, it's a good idea that you offer incentives to invest in places where there's a lack of investment. All too often, though, politics gets involved in the location and selection of the site. And with any sort of subsidy, what often happens is that the transfers go to the people who would have done that anyway, as this kind of subsidizes activities that would have taken place. It's not clear how much it really changes the incentives and changes the outcomes as much as some might think.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned the recruiting big businesses, already established businesses. I was kind of referring to I've heard people before to encourage let's say in the rural areas somebody starting a business from the ground up that then you put in this opportunities zone. But you're saying that it may not be necessarily crystal clear that it would have any impact at all.
Well. It's not clear how much it improves activity. Put it that way. I guess what I had in mind more was the idea that when firms make their location decisions, they often settle on a region and then narrow it down, and that's part of the game where trying to get incentive subsidies.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Like back to your initial point about locally grown businesses, organically grown businesses. If I can recruit a big business here into Arkansas, then it could potentially be recruited away. But I mean, the statistics are pretty clear. When you have low taxes, low regs, and you make it possible for, or at least easier for somebody to say, you know what, I've been doing this for a while. I've always had this idea. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to try to start this business. If it's successful, that business is going to stick around in Arkansas, right?
Right. That's generally the case. And really, when you dig down in the statistics, that's where most of the job growth comes from. Now, a lot of it, as you point out, is temporary in the sense that not all new businesses succeed. So there's a lot of turnover, but both in terms of gross and net job growth, small business is really where it's at.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is the backbone. Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot. I hear that a lot though about the fact that we do have, Little Rock, like you said, it's booming. Northwest Arkansas is doing good. Northeast Arkansas, but then we have this kind of depopulation of some of the rest of our state, and it's concerning to me. I definitely think that this is something that we all need to be concerned about to some degree or another.
Well, yeah. It's this economic expansion has really been a transformation in Arkansas's labor markets, and that had an effect on population flows and growth around the state as well. Now we have seen more growth in the leisure and hospitality tourism industries, cities. Those tend to help some of the more rural areas that have amenities to offer. But there's just the loss of manufacturing and goods producing jobs in many parts of the state is just have not been replaced.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, hopefully, hopefully we'll continue to make progress. Like you said, we've got good jobs numbers, good income numbers as well from Tuesday. So anyway, it's always great to have you on, Dr. Michael Pakko, to analyze all this for us and to kind of report, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, well, I hope I didn't get too far down in the weeds with you.
You never can do that.
It's a pleasure to talk about it.
No, absolutely. We really appreciate it, Dr. Pakko.